So I think we got that far for sure. Is that correct? There's one right there. Did we get to the photographs here? Okay. But we did talk about age. All right. All right. So, like in the video that we watched on Monday, we are now seeing a lot of photographs. So there's going to be photographs that we see and use to help us explain what it was like for soldiers. So I might turn the lights off so we can look at it. It's fine. Yes, okay. No. That's good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, so take a look at this photograph. Just based on what we know at this point, do you think this is a Union group of soldiers or a Confederate group of soldiers? And why do you think that?
Union because some of their uniforms are different.
Some of the uniforms are different. Okay, what color was generally the Union?
No.
Blue-ish, yeah. So, and what color were the Confederates?
Yeah.
About what?
Actually, red.
Not
Gray.
grayish, yeah. So if we could zoom in and actually look at their hats, those are called kepi hats. Sometimes they would have an emblem on them, and we would know for sure what side they were on. And we'll take a closer look at some of that kind of stuff as well later. So the average Yankee, what side is that? Union, or Yank. And then the Reb, which is short for rebel, which would be for the South, were mainly white men, native born, usually a farmer, Protestant. What does that refer to? Protestant. If someone is Protestant, what does that indicate of them? If I said they were Catholic, what would that indicate? So it's their religious background. Okay. So Protestant is also a Christian denomination. Most were single between the ages of what? 16 to 23. Stood about 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighed about 143 pounds. How they know that, I don't know. Maybe when they are recruited, they get all that information. Because they kept detailed information even back then. Yeah. All right. So I think, in my opinion, I think this group is from the North or from the Union side. Here's another group of soldiers. They're from the Union or from the Confederacy.
Please excuse this interruption. I need the following students to come to the Commons area with a Chromebook and a charger if it's not charged, and a book to read. Marley Henson, Caleb Irwin, Josh Offit, Ronnie Glon, Brent Surratt, Madison Mason, Grayson Greer, Dylan Ramey, Grayson Smith, Nicholas Brown, Judah Barger, and Araya Scoville. Please come to the Commons area with your Chromebook, a charger, and a book to read. Thank you.
Okay. So, is this group maybe from the Union or the Confederacy? Why? Maybe so. Why?
It doesn't look like they have like uniforms or something.
It doesn't look as formal, right? This is definitely a relaxed photograph for sure. So I mean, we got one guy doing what with his feet? You know, he's cleaning his feet with his knife. All right. So probably I wouldn't say officers. Maybe they're more the privates or corporals. Can you see what's on their hats? Here. What's that?
Looks like 71.
Yeah, 71. So that would give it's either their regiment number or their company number. Okay. What else are they doing in this photograph?
Pulling guns.
Yeah, so we got a gun here. Someone said that this person might be cleaning his gun, which totally could. What are the ages of these men? Can you guess?
20s.
20s?
Well, some of them.
Which
Yeah, that
one?
guy with the white shirt, like
Oh,
lighter shirt, looks
this
younger.
guy?
Yeah, he looks.
Yeah, he
younger.
definitely looks younger because maybe he doesn't have any facial hair.
Mhm.
Any other youngsters in there? They may be young. They just the fashion at the time was a lot of facial hair, so I can't tell if that's a mustache or not. He's got an interesting beard going on, but we don't see the whole picture either because we got guys in the back here, and this guy looks like he's got a jacket on, but it's pretty informal. You can also see what is this? What could this be back here? Yeah, a tent. Yeah. It also shows your shoes. These are called brogans. We'll get into later. Okay. Here's another group of people who eventually did fight, and we'll talk about them. Why are they fighting? Freedom. Absolutely. Is there any other reason why they could be fighting? Not just for freedom? Pardon? To vote? To rebel? Okay. Possibly. Or revenge? Sure. What have people been talking about them? Like what is their capabilities? Nothing. Like their only capability is to do what? Physical labor, right? So now they have a chance to maybe do what?
I say they're actually doing something.
Yeah, like prove themselves to be worthy of more respect, maybe, perhaps. Yeah. So here are some things that they carried. If you flip your page over, I think it's on the back of the first page, you have the same list of things here. Okay. And in the spaces provided underneath, you can pick a couple that you might want to put a name to and then what it's used for. So let's go through it a little bit. What's number 1?
Canteen.
Yeah, canteen for water. Number 2, for cooking. What's number 3? Do you know?
I think a photo of a purse.
It does look like a purse. But what would a soldier be carrying in a purse? We'll get there. How about number 3?
And since they had muskets, they had a bag just for all the musket.
Yeah. So for earlier cartridges, for sure. So let's see what the actual name is. Cartridge box. And then you can tell it's for the Union because if you look closely, it says US on it. Number 4, though, Owen, is toothbrush. So they did care a little bit about their hygiene, right? Number 5. What? It's not a pocket. It's a straight razor. Yeah, it's for shaving. What about number 6? Soap. Yeah. You know how soap was made back then? If it was lye soap, you'd get animal fat and render it down, and you liquefy it and mix it with ashes. And whatever the chemical reaction is, when it solidifies, it becomes soap. You can wash stuff with it. That's what it was. What do you have? 8 and 9 here. Oh, we skipped number 7.
A tent.
Not a tent.
A bag.
A what?
It's like holding thing. It's a bag. Made out of
Oh, it's like a bag.
made out of blanket.
Yeah, it's a blanket. And we'll watch a video in a minute that kind of explains a little bit of that. Yeah. So we got soap, a blanket. What do we got here?
Silverware.
Yep. Though I love this. I don't know if this is like a whole fork or just like it actually is a piece of one. No. And of course, plate, comb.
Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one?
So a musket. So they're slightly different from rifles. I mean, they were called rifles, but they had different ammunition, which we'll talk about later. What do we got here?
Money.
Money. What is that? Photographs. Yep. 14. What does it kind of look like?
Looks like a book.
It is a book. Sometimes they'd carry. It's actually a Bible. The Bible. 15.
Stamp cards. Like the ones you put in the mail.
Yeah. Why would you need stamps?
For the letters.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then 16. Yeah, they call them haversacks.
Yay!
Haversacks, yeah. So they'd put everything, or as much as they could, in there. Okay. So those are some of the things that they carried. How much do you think all that weighed? I mean, that's what you're carrying the whole time. Until you're fighting, you're going to put some stuff down to fight. I have no idea. But I know when my brothers were in the Army, their haversacks and all the things they carried was like 80 pounds.
Right.
So a lot of soldiers would get compressed spines from that. So here are examples of what they wore. So this type of hat that was kind of pleated like an accordion are called kepi hats. This type of hat on the Confederate side was called a slouch hat. Both the shoes are called brogans. This is called a shell jacket because it didn't come all the way down, but it kind of was like at the waist length almost. This was called a sack coat. Of course, your pants and the brogan shoes. And I'm picking up the Civil War box from the Shiloh Museum today, so we'll get to go through some of that, and then the shoes are and the kepi hats are in there as well. Question? Oh. All right. So here is a video, a short video on some of the equipment, and he'll give a better explanation than I am, since I'm not an expert.
Standing in the museum library here at the West Point Museum with a rather stoic figure. He is a representation of a typical Union infantryman of the war, and he has the basic accoutrements that everybody wore. The Civil War soldier, North or South alike, of course, had his basic uniform, whatever was issued. In this case, this fellow is wearing the standard U.S. Army issue fatigue blouse or sack coat and 4-inch cap, trousers. North and South alike, the soldiers carried the same basic accoutrements. The basic thing that the soldier had to have with him, of course, was utensils he needed to fight. The primary thing is his cartridge box, which holds 40 cartridges, either on a sling like this or on the waist belt itself. A lot of times Confederates would wear it on the waist belt instead. His waist belt, which has his cap box, which he needs to prime the weapon. course, a bayonet scabbard to hold the bayonet for the gun. He has a canteen and haversack kept on the left side, out of the way of the cartridge box, because you won't be able to get to the cartridge box. The haversack would hold some rations, maybe some extra ammunition if he wanted to. And then for his own personal well-being, he has a knapsack on the back. The knapsack, both north and south, if they were used, could have extra clothing, personal items such as a diary, maybe photographs. You see Confederate soldiers with knapsacks during the war, although the typical configuration is for them to have a blanket roll. To take the blanket, make it into a long tube, and then wrap it around your body. North and south, they did that alike, because as you can see, the knapsack is really not a very comfortable thing to carry. But in battle, of course, one of the first things you did was to drop your knapsack. Sometimes you never got it back because you never came back there. The Confederacy did import English accoutrements, the Enfield accoutrements. The standard Enfield accoutrements had the same general idea, except that they were shaped differently. And the fastener that came with the English belt was an S hook in the shape of a snake. But otherwise, the Confederacy basically just kept on manufacturing their versions of what the Northern armies had been using before the Civil War. So this is fairly typical of what would have been issued. The whole setup was developed primarily just before the Civil War, and then it lasted up until the 1870s as the main way a soldier was accoutred. The weapon gear, the cartridge box, waist belt, such, came from the Ordnance Department. And then, of course, they decided that the canteen and haversacks would be done by the Quartermaster Department. So these departments had to intermix and make sure that the soldiers got what they needed. Basically, it was just when you were enrolled as a soldier, you got handed your gear. That was what you're supposed to use.
All right. Nope. That's not what I want. There. All right. So here's some of the things that they ate. So some of the rations that they would carry with them. Salt pork. Anybody ever had salt pork before? Oh, what? What, Owen? Does it taste good? Why not?
It's just
Why? To explain.
it's like tough.
It is tough.
Yeah, it's tough. And
What's it taste like?
salt.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah,
like
it's
pure
like-
salt. Why?
It's salt water, but we can.
Why would you salt pork when it's naturally salted anyway, Caleb?
Maybe like they have special preserving salts.
Yeah, it's to preserve it. I mean, they didn't have any refrigeration methods in that sense. Okay, so salt pork. I think we used to buy some at the store. I don't know if that's available anymore or not, but I remember it's like just frying it up and whoop, it's very salty. Bacon or beef, of course. Soft bread flour, if they had some. Cornmeal or hardtack. Now, hardtack looks like the little saltine cracker. And I made hardtack last year, and it is, I had to dry it out for hours in the oven. And there's a reason for that, because you want as much moisture out of the cracker or hardtack as possible. Because if you have moisture, what could happen? Yeah, mold, mildew, attract more bugs to it, that kind of thing. So salt pork, hardtack, easily transportable, less likely to mold right away or spoil. Beans or peas, it's good protein, good carbs. Rice or hominy. Anybody know what hominy is? Anybody have hominy before?
I had it when I was little.
Yeah. Hominy is basically hydrated corn, and it is not my favorite. Okay, you can get it at the store. It might be a little harder to find. You can get white hominy, yellow hominy, and it smells very interesting. But if that's all you have, You gotta eat it, right?
I'd rather eat that.
Coffee is gonna be really important. Tea. Sugar, if you can get it. At the end of the war, it was gonna be extremely hard to find. But if you wanted to sweeten whatever, molasses would be really good. You ever seen molasses? I was surprised last year how many people did not know what molasses was. Anybody know? And I shall bring it on Monday. And if I get my stuff together, I will make hardtack for you. Okay? I bet the molasses would also like soften the hardtack for you to eat in some cases. They might dip their hardtack in the coffee or tea to soften it up too. But it's just a way to transport it. Now, why would you need vinegar? What's vinegar used for? Anybody know? You can cook with it, for sure.
You could maybe use it for oil.
For what?
You could use it to completely for oil.
Oh, I see. For the cooking purposes, perhaps. But vinegar is also used to pickle things, to preserve it. Okay, so if they were able to find, I've seen pickled eggs. Okay, I mean they pickle everything. You can pickle anything. And I've never had pickled eggs. I mean, if I was offered, maybe I'd try. I pickle pickles, so. All right. So a wide variety, but this is probably the basic things. Now, of course, if you're going to come upon maybe a town or a village, and they're desperate for food, they're going to go get it from the farms that are there, especially if it's fresh vegetables and stuff like that. And they may or may not buy it from the people that are there. All right. Where they slept. We already saw a picture of a photograph with a tent behind it. But this is a drawing of one of the log cabins. Looks natural, all think made of logs and covered with flies or canvas. Flies, not the little buzzing flies, but like if you're a tent camper, if you camp with tents, you have the fly to keep over the tent to keep the rain off of it. The canvas, so it don't leak much. The dark place in the middle is a rubber blanket. Canvas is not large enough. We don't have any windows. Light comes through the canvas. Now, when would you ever stay in a cabin like this? Like, what time of the year? Yeah, probably winter time, because are you doing a lot of fighting during the winter? Depending on where you're at. Probably in the north, you're not going to be fighting a whole lot in the winter. But in the south, it can be very wet as well. So a lot of not to say there weren't any battles or fights during the winter, but a lot of it's going to be during the spring and summer and fall. So they're more stationary when they're not fighting, obviously, than they would if they need to be on the move. Okay. Soldier life. This is a new PowerPoint for me.
The popular image of the Civil War soldier is that of a young man wearing blue or gray, standing shoulder to shoulder with his comrades and marching into a great battle. However, only a small portion of the soldier's life was spent in combat. Between the battles and marches were vast stretches of inactivity that were marked by three things: duty, drill, and diversion. The day begins at dawn with the bugler blowing reveille. At this, all the men rise from their tents and fall in for roll call. At this point, men are assigned to the various fatigue duties, manual labor that keeps the army running. This can include cooking, cleaning, building roads. In the cases of artillery or cavalry, this includes the care and grooming of horses. Another form of duty vital to the Army's existence was guard duty. Detachments of troops were stationed not only throughout the entire camp of the Army, but also at the far reaches of that camp, often only a rifle shot away from the enemy. Those troops not assigned to duty would stay in camp for drill. Drill is an essential part of the soldier's life. This is how he learns to handle his weapon, how to march in formation, and how to execute the various battlefield maneuvers that will be used in combat. Drill can be broken down into 3 various forms. Drill by the squad, in which a non-commissioned officer leads 6 or 8 men in practicing of maneuvers or the manual of arms. Drill by the company, in which a company commander or a captain leads up to 100 men in battlefield maneuvers. And finally, drill by the battalion, in which all 10 companies of a regiment are formed on the parade ground and execute the vast, sweeping maneuvers that come to mind when we think of Civil War battles. When not drilling or performing some other vital task for the Army, men had precious few forms of diversion with which to occupy their time. The most popular by far was reading and writing. Men were desperate for news from home or the outside world, and they got it from whatever source they could, whether it was an often read newspaper or a cherished letter from a loved one. Men could also be found playing cards or chess, or also involved in some of the various social clubs that were formed throughout the Army, whether it was Bible study groups, glee clubs, or drama troupes that would perform on special occasions. Whether he wore blue or gray, these are the activities that filled the soldier's life between the great battles that decided the fate of our nation.
All right. So, do you know what sport was invented during the Civil War?
Soccer?
Baseball. All right. Nope. Go to the next. Nope. Okay. So here's a quote from a Union soldier, which the video mentioned is the first thing in the morning, drill. Then drill again. Then drill, a little more drill, then drill, and lastly drill. Between drills, we drill. So why is drilling so important?
Because then you can get into it and now you know what to do.
Exactly. You don't need or want to have to think about what your next move is. When you hear an order, you know exactly what it is. For any sport that has plays like football or even basketball, you have certain plays that you make, and then you drill those plays every single time. So when the coach or whoever's leading calls for it, then you know exactly what to do.
It's nice to practice.
So in practice, you drill your what? What are you drilling? For basketball, what is your basic drill? Dribbling. You can't dribble. Can you perform for, the whole entire game? No, you can't. So drilling was boring, but necessary. You don't want to have to think about how to load your gun and shoot someone. Ugh. Okay. I definitely didn't want you to have to think about that. Or that might stop you in your tracks.
I wonder what it would have been like if they had like modern guns, the ones that did every time you shot you didn't have to fully reload it and stuff. So
So, I have, like, if you've gone to Prairie Grove, I went when I was in 4th grade, and they demonstrated how to load the musket, the rifle. I've heard that a good soldier could do 6 fire their gun in six times in a minute. I don't even know how that's even possible.
my brother.
Okay, that's crazy. All right, so how they communicated. So in that video, it showed them desperately reading news from newspapers from all over as much as they could get it. Letters for sure. And we saw stamps in that little section with what they carried. Letters were vital. Why? Anybody ever gotten a letter through the mail? Like an actual real letter. So it's kind of unusual at this stage in the game that people actually spend the time to write out something. What does that indicate to you these days that someone took the time to do that? Hmm? That they care? Yeah, sure. Or and then something, maybe something's really important that they want to say to you. Yeah. So how do we normally communicate these days? Texts, yeah,
Face-to-face.
emails, sometimes face to face. Yeah. So, but they only had letters. And I have some letters from my relative who fought in the Civil War. And I'm going to read one to you. And it's really awesome to have these primary sources because it can give us a glimpse into a soldier's life. And so what I would like you to do is when I'm reading one, I want you to see if you can figure out who he is. What kind of a person is he? Would it be someone that you would want to get to know? So I'm going to show you what they look like and who he is writing to. So here are some photographs. Glare. Of Anne Rivers Cotton. And this is the wife of James Hooper Cotton. And he wrote these letters to her. Now, what can you tell already about this man? Huh? He cares about his wife. Okay, but let's look at the photographs. There are photographs. Emma.
Is he wealthy
Okay, why would you say that?
for clothes?
Clothing. All right. And you can see this lady has earrings and a watch here. And it looks kind of fancy. And this is a similar pose with a nice belt. Yeah, so these are portraits, right? Let's see. And these gentlemen down here, I believe this is the father of Anne and his sons, Robert and William. And I love these photographs because they kind of show you, again, the fashion of the time and what some people wore. Okay. So here's some money. And here are letters. Now these don't have envelopes. They folded the letters to create an envelope. And you can see the creases here. So on the other side is the letter. So here's more letters. It's upside down. But here is the first one that I want to read to you.
What side is he on?
Oh, you're going to tell me. If you listen to the letter, maybe you can find out. All right. So here, I should back this up. That would be much easier. He has a date and a place. Can you read that? It says Corinth. What's the date?
May 21st, 1862.
1862. All right. So these other letters are written in what?
Cursive.
Oh, yes. Yes. So it's hard to read because we're not used to it. But like, what is it actually written with? This one?
Ink.
That's pencil. This is ink. Okay? And it varies throughout his letter writing. Might indicate something as well. All right, so here we go. My dear wife, as several of the citizens of Tipton are here, I have concluded to write and send my letter by one of them. It seems an age since we left old Tipton. We have had a great deal of sickness since we have been here. In the first place, our regiment has been greatly imposed on, partly on account of our field officers being green. What does that mean? New. They're inexperienced. And partly on account of our regiment being transferred first to a Mississippi brigade and then to Cheatham's division in Tomlinson's brigade. We have done more picketing than some of the regiment that have been out for 12 months, but the cause of our bad state of health is owing to our surgeon, Dr. Roon. We have lost 2 of our company, and Jack Cole we are looking for to die every hour, and as they were all stout, healthy young men and were sadly neglected by Roon, the company to a man. So my grandmother, Anne Rivers Cotton Harris, Winford Harris, by the way, transcribed these. So sometimes it was hard to read, so sometimes the sentences don't make sense. But you'll see. So I believe the company are cursing or no, probably censuring Dr. Roon for his neglect. In fact, the entire regiment are as much down on him as we are. He would not now get 25 out of the 1,250 votes of the regiment for surgeon on the 4th corporal. We have sent about 25 of our own sick off to the hospital and have 25 or so sick and complaining. And out of the 1,250 in the regiment, we have been turning out from 273 to 325 men fit for duty for the last week. So out of 1,250 men in the regiment, only 300 can actually perform their duties. That's how many are sick. But as we are now located in Tomlinson's brigade, we will, I am, in hope, soon recover our health. My own health is fine. I have had the bowel complaint very bad for 24 hours, which terminated in a touch of flux, which is like the cold. So what is a bowel complaint? Stomachache, yeah. And in this case, probably diarrhea. Okay. But I was very prudent and soon recovered. It is from the bowel complaint that nearly all of our diseases start from. And there is more of that in the Army than anywhere else, owing to the water, which is very scarce, and nothing but branch or seep water from the branch in our wells that are 4 or 6 feet deep, dug by the branches. But whilst we are hard run, it is a great consolation to know that the enemy are worse off than we are, both as to the sickness and water. The enemy are never 3 miles reported to be at our breastworks. The grand struggle cannot be far off, probably not more than a day or 2. We hear that the wheat is ruined at home. I hope that it is not so. This says 2 hours later. I had to stop writing. The camp was aroused and we marched out to the breastworks. That's where there's barriers to keep the other side from, or obstacles to keep them from coming over. But no enemy was nearer than the same old 3 miles. I wish they would come on or go back 1, for if they do come, we will whip them certain, and if they retreat, it is equivalent to a defeat. I sent in a bundle of Bob Haney's, my vest and a piece of carpeting which you can make a saddlecloth of, on any other thing you may think proper. Has the pain you used to have in your side when you laid on your side left you yet? I hope it has. If it has not, please take medicine for it. How is my dear old mother's health now? And all of the kin? Has the doctor's health improved yet? You wanted to know in your last letter that what I was going to do about the conscript law. Conscript is the draft that the South made. You're not a volunteer, you're forced to fight. So what I was going to do about the conscript law. When I wrote last, I was not sufficiently posted to give you a satisfactory answer. The law exempts me after the 16th of July next, as the law will bring out as many young men as are wanted to drive back the invaders. I shall continually avail myself of the opportunity of returning home and the reorganizing of the army. The other day I could have got the office I wanted at first, but as it would have bound me for the war, I would not suffer my name to run, as I would rather remain a private than have to stay away from you longer than the 16th day of July next. When you write, let me know how my little boys are getting along. Tell Tom and Joe that they must be good boys and learn their books. Tell Doc that the knife he gave me has been of great deal of service. Kiss the little rascals for me, each one, the baby included. Tell Mum I want to hear his little tongue mighty bad. Let me know in your answer how Flower's health is. I hope it is in recovery since the warm weather. When you wrote, let me know what Ben Green and his brother have done about the conscript. Tell Colonel Sanders I wish I had him home with a backgammon board and could pass off many a dull hour, and to keep himself in readiness, for I will be too lazy to do anything else but to play for a month after I get home. If you write by mail, direct your letters to James H. Cotton, 51st Regiment, Tennessee Volunteer Company, G. It will be more safe to send by hand, and I expect my friend T.G. Townsend could always send it either to this regiment or the 9th. Has Bob's eyes got better? Does the conscript take Churchill? How are the crops? Give my love to all the kin and respects to all inquiring friends. And now, my dear wife, goodbye. Your husband, James H. Cotton. So who is he fighting for? The what? How do you know?
Because there was a part where he said he said something about like the Constitution compared to.
The conscript law?
Yeah.
Okay. Where's he from?
So
But what state? Huh?
Mississippi.
No? He says, if you write by mail, direct your letters to James H. Cotton, 51st Regiment, Tennessee Volunteer Company, G. He is from Tennessee. So he is fighting for the Confederacy. What does he do for a living? Did you catch that? Farms. He says something about the wheat. How well off is he? What does he want to do when he gets back? What does he want to play? Did you catch that? Backgammon. Do you know what that is? It's like chess, but with just white and black pieces that move across the board. So what does that indicate? If he knows how to play backgammon, okay, so maybe he's a little educated, perhaps. Okay. Well, I will read another letter that gives some more information on Monday to learn more about Mr. Cotton. Hey, when does he get out of the Army? Did you catch that?
like
July 16th. We'll see what happens to him. Okay.